Good Girl, Exploit World presents. Only in Philenoia. Season 1, Episode 2. In a flashback to Venus's childhood, when she was 7 years old, Vanessa was with her mother at Chuck E. Cheese during her birthday. Her mother got her some pizza, but Vanessa did not feel like eating, because the way the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and mascots looked really terrified her, and it made her lose her appetite. Vanessa started getting bored and she had decided to play one of the arcade machines. She went to play an 8-bit game called Plane Shooting. After playing for a while, she went to sit down, and Vanessa did not feel like celebrating her birthday. At one point, someone in a Chuck E. Cheese mascot rat costume walked over to their table to see how much they liked the pizza. This made Vanessa really uncomfortable and disgusted, but she tried to stay calm. Vanessa decided to leave and go to the restroom as an excuse to get away. While she was in the restroom, she locked herself in a stall, and had no clue of what to do. Suddenly, she started crying and screaming. When she opened the restroom door to see what was going on, she saw that there were many kids terrified of the rat costume, and they ran away from it to go to their mommy and daddy. Whoever was in the rat costume was pulled into the back room. The children were scared of the facade of the rat costume's face. Vanessa was scared, but with so many kids running around the place, it was hard to tell where her mother was, and she lost track. Vanessa was already scared of the rat costume, and she sneaked into a back room. It was dark, and she could not see anything. Vanessa walks around the room until she accidentally stepped on a voice box button, and suddenly, an old animatronic voice started singing. This scared the blistering shit out of her ass, especially since it was dark. Vanessa tripped over a few materials, but she managed to run out of there. At that moment, she bumped into her mother, and they left the restaurant before things got ugly for the both of them. When they got home, Venus's mommy and daddy sang happy birthday to her and then prepared the cake for her. Vanessa ate the cake, but she did not feel like eating furthermore after what happened back at the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. Back to the presents, Vanessa is still taking care of her daughter Alivier. She recently got a stepson to take care of Alivier. Back at the daycare center, Vanessa and her daughter Alivier were waiting to see their new and adopted family member named Oswald, who was going to live with them until he turned 18. Vanessa did not want to treat Oswald like her son, she just wanted someone to take care of Alivier while she was drowned in paperwork. She does want him to be supervisioning her daughter, though. Anyways, after some minutes, Oswald came to see them. His parents were there, too. At some point, a daycare center guard asked Oswald if he was going to miss his parents, and Oswald said not really. Oswald was the only child living with his two parents, and he didn't really have any training to be looking out for a child like Alivier. Plus, he was planning to become a rock star, and he would rather write his own songs than look out for Alivier. Anyways, Oswald walked up to Olivier's mom, and asked her if he should just call her by her real name, and she said yes, it is fine. When Vanessa drove Alivier and Oswald home, she asked Oswald how old he was, and he said he was 14. Vanessa thought it wasn't really enough, but hoping he is developed enough to take care of Alivier in all hopes. The next day, Oswald took his stepsister Alivier for some fun. Alivier decided to put on her pink bunny costume. Vanessa has kept Alivier inside the house until they had Oswald in the picture, so she thought she can go outside with her stepbrother Oswald for some fresh air, since the house stunk a bit. Alivier wanted to wear her pink bunny suit because she thought it looked cute. Oswald walks Alivier out the door, and they go walking to check out the city that they are in. When Oswald was living at the daycare center, he was in a different city, and Vanessa drove all the way to the daycare center, and brought Oswald to their town, so Oswald is new to the place where Alivier and her mother lives. There were many damaged properties all around and so much graffiti on the walls. Anyways, Oswald and Alivier found themselves in a main part of the town. Oswald was looking around when he spotted a guitar in a convenience store through the window. He was dying to check it out, and he left Alivier near a bunch of gang members, hoping they would keep an eye on her. Unfortunately for him, the gang members were not happy with Oswald leaving Alivier with them, and they got mad and tried to jump Oswald. Oswald struggled to let go, and eventually, he managed to get out from them by punching one of the guys in the face. Oswald grabbed Alivier. 12 people jumped Oswald, and they chased him, but luckily, Oswald lost them as he ran away, keeping Alivier in his strong bare arms. Oswald then took Alivier to a children's playground, because that is where no gangster affiliations are presented. Oswald lets Alivier explore the playground while he is reading a dictionary. But after a few minutes, Oswald lost track of Alivier. This worried him so much, because the playground he and she were at was located in an area surrounded by cities that could be dangerous for Alivier to wander around. Speaking of Alivier, she was already wandering around her city. Many people saw her, but did not bother asking her any questions. As Alivier walked around town, she accidentally walked into a porn theater, and she did not even know it. The reason she was able to get inside was that there was a broken entrance at a back alley, and plus, it was a hot day and there were not that many supervisors. When Alivier got inside, she did not really know what to expect, because she was just exploring buildings after buildings. At one point, she came across an empty room that was purple, and had sexual doodles. Alivier then suddenly hears moaning, but she could not tell where it was coming from. She actually found a big theater. There were a dozen guys sitting at their seats, and they were seated apart from each other. The place really smelled awful, and by the occasional light, there were many semen stains everywhere. By the way, there was no woman to be found in the theater, and the seats in the theaters were different colors. Very ambitious. Alivier walked out from the porn theater, and she walked around for a while until she found an old bike. Alivier decides to ride it, even though there were bugs. Oswald eventually caught Alivier and got her before she got into trouble. Oswald and Alivier continued to go to stores. Oswald bought Alivier some candy from the money her mother gave him, and also a ticket to a bus in case they need a full ride. Some time passed by, and Alivier was playing on a playground with some other kids. Oswald was getting a bit bored, and he read the dictionary to keep himself going. While Oswald was reading, some thugs entered the playground area and started doing exercise, by using the playground equipment as their exercise apparatus. To make things worse, there was a 29-year-old woman there, who was apparently the gang member's companion. The woman was wearing some lingerie clothes, which Oswald thought was too inappropriate for the children to see, and their parents had the same exact thought. While the other gang members were too busy doing exercise, Oswald went up to the gang member's girl and called her a mall to call her out. He told her that her clothing is not appropriate for the kids in the area. But one of the gang members came through, and got pissed off that Oswald called his girl a mall, which was a term Oswald found in the dictionary he was reading earlier. The guy must have known what the term, mall, meant, because he started lashing out at Oswald for calling his girl an offensive name like that. Oswald told the guy that her sex clothes are not appropriate, but the guy did not care, and the next thing he knew, the other gang members got into the act. Oswald started to get frustrated to talk sense into them, so he yelled at them to fuck off and quickly grabbed Alivier to go somewhere else. Oswald was immediately angry, because Alivier was having fun with the other kids she was playing with, and had to get her out of places like that playground because of what he thinks are a bunch of stupid fucking heartless gang members. Oswald then took Alivier to a zoo, and Alivier was interested. They went in many tents to check out all sorts of animals. At some point, Alivier was looking wide at an elephant in a cage, and she felt bad about how the animals in the zoo are not in their usual habitats. Alivier got bored at this point, and she and Oswald went to go to other places. Sometime later, Oswald wanted to go home, and used his bus ticket for a ride to their neighborhood city. While they waited, Oswald started to get tired and fell asleep. Minutes later, their bus came, but Oswald was already asleep. Not knowing what to do, Alivier just takes the ticket from Oswald's hand, and gets on board. Alivier sat in her seat, and at that moment, a random man gave her candy, and that made her happy. Meanwhile, Oswald wakes up to find out that the ticket is not in his hand anymore, and that Alivier must have got on the township bus without him. He went to find Alivier in a huge panic. Back with Alivier, she got out of the bus when it stopped for a second time, and she had no idea where she was. She was supposed to be in her neighborhood town, but she is actually in a random part of her city, where there was killing, robbing, dope selling, and struggle. Alivier sat down at a bench to eat her candy, where it was near people in a line waiting for their personal drug deal selling property. Meanwhile, Vanessa was sending complaints to the mayor of Philenoia. She listed reasons why the town was dangerous, and asked for civil and proper laws to keep her daughter okay. However, this is often dismissed, in view of the opinion that individuals are seen as organizing chaos and evil. Vanessa was outraged by this, and she decided to declare rules herself, because she had followed laws that were not present when she was a timid adolescent and a teenager. Meanwhile, Oswald finally found Alivier after a while, and the two camped near a strip club back alley. It was what kept Oswald going, and liked hearing people going wild in a place where his presence does not take place. During the rest of the day, they went out to many places and went sightseeing. When it got dark, Oswald took Alivier to a restaurant to eat food. Oswald asked Alivier what she wanted, and Alivier said that she wanted cinnamon bread. Oswald told the waitress for cinnamon bread for Alivier and a salad for himself. As they waited for their food, Oswald was sitting down when she noticed a red car pulling up. He thought the car looked a bit familiar, and that is when he thought it was the red car from the people he was having a fight with earlier. Oswald stayed calm and just focused on waiting for his food. 10 minutes later, their food was ready and served. As Oswald and Alivier ate their food, the guys who were in a fight with Oswald from earlier busted into the restaurant, and they saw Oswald the second they stepped in. This time, there were 5 guys instead of 9. One of the guys cornered Oswald and started cursing at him. The guy demanded him to say, "Fuck me," as a way of making himself feel guilty for leaving his stepsister. Oswald refused to say it, so the guy socked him in the face, and Oswald retaliated by forcing himself on him and slapping the guy's face. At this point, Oswald was not necessarily the aggressor, and he tried to prevent himself from getting beaten up. Oswald knocked the guy down, and the other 4 guys decided to jump on him. While all this was happening, Alivier just sat there and watched in a worried way. Oswald finally got himself together, and he went to grab Alivier so she won't have to be thrown in on the situation. Oswald and Alivier got out of the restaurant before the 5 guys could catch up to them. But all of a sudden, shots started ringing from the background, and Oswald ran as fast as he could so he and Alivier wouldn't get shot. It was so dark that Oswald could not even tell where the shooting was coming from, but he did not care. He just wanted himself and Alivier to get home safe and fine. When they got inside, Oswald did not tell Vanessa about the shooting. Oswald noticed Alivier was tired, so he put her to bed, and tucked her in. Oswald decided to play games in the living room to get the incident off his head. Around 2 a.m. at midnight, when Alivier was asleep, all of a sudden, shots started going off from outside, and the bullets traveled through Olivier's bedroom window, and Alivier got shot in the arm. Alivier did not die right away, but it did leave her badly hurt. The next morning around 7 a.m., Alivier woke up, not understanding what happened, because her arms felt painful. It was a bit dark still, so she turned on her bedroom light, and she was absolutely shocked to find herself covered in blood. She was somehow able to keep conscious, and she went up to the living room to tell Oswald what had happened to her. Oswald was very shocked when he saw blood all over her, flowing from her arms. This confused Oswald, and he was not sure what happened. But then he remembered that he heard shots, which were the same shot sounds from earlier, and that is when he put 2 and 2 together and figured out they were from the same guys he had a fight with back at the restaurant earlier. Oswald woke up Olivier's mom, and told her what happened. Olivier's mom started to freak out, and she picked her up and headed to the car. But before they could leave to get help, they were stopped by police officers in their neighborhood, and that is when they learned that Alivier had been shot. Oswald and Vanessa were shocked, and they waited for an ambulance to arrive. Alivier was now in the hospital, and moreover, the gang members who had shot Alivier were eventually arrested and will be going to trial for what they did to her. Meanwhile, with Oswald and Vanessa, they prayed for Alivier, hoping for her life. The end.